Have you ever felt like menopause has stolen your sparkle? Like that inner light that used to shine so brightly is a little dimmer? I know I have. It's a feeling that's hard to put into words, but if you've experienced it, you know exactly what I mean. The good news is, we don't have to just accept this as a part of menopause. There are ways to rediscover and reignite that joy, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about in today's episode. We'll be diving into the practical strategies and wisdom to help you find your way back to that inner glow, no matter where you are on that menopause journey. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today, Lisa McCourt. Lisa isn't just an expert on joy, she wrote the book on it. As the founder of Joy School and the author of Free Your Joy and several other inspiring books, Lisa has helped millions of people realize their inner joy. What I love about Lisa's approach is that it's not just what she teaches, it's genuinely who she is. She's lived these methods herself through all of life's ups and downs. And today, she's here to share that wisdom with us and talk about how to find our joy during midlife, menopause, and beyond. Full disclosure before we get started. I've started reading Lisa's book, Free Your Joy, and it's already had a profound impact on me. I am so excited to dive deeper into these ideas with her today. Welcome, Lisa. I am so happy to have you here to talk today about joy. You describe joy as a skill, something that we could develop and nurture. And I think that is such an important topic to talk about, especially for women going through menopause and midlife too. We're navigating so many different things at this time of our lives, and there's so many ups and downs. And I feel that sometimes joy is one of those things that we don't even know it's gone until it's gone. So I'm hoping that you could tell us a little bit about how you became a joy trainer and about writing the book and what we need to know about joy today.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you for inviting me to be with your beautiful community. Yeah, I think that's interesting. You say sometimes, it slips away and we don't even notice it. And another way that it happens is sometimes we never really had it and don't know that because it was just the water that we swim in. Like we are always conditioned from a very early age. In Joy School, we call it the joy set point. It's like we learn it from our families, from our communities, sometimes from school, sometimes from a religion. We learn at a very early age how much joy and happiness we are supposed to expect. And we're always creating our reality, creating our life out of our deep down early ingrained expectations. So, yes, sometimes it's like we can recognize we had joy and it sort of slipped away. Sometimes we wake up to the fact that we just never really even knew to claim it for ourselves, knew that it should be ours, that it could be ours. So those are two different approaches there. And yes, I mean, in midlife, so many of us were the things that our culture trains us to think are the things that are going to get us joy and happiness and acceptance and love are very youth oriented, right? So our soul knows a bigger truth than that. But when we do have so much cultural conditioning that happiness comes from being the right size and looking pretty and having, all these youthful things going on, then yeah, it's going to feel like, well, now I'm really not supposed to be joyful because look at this gray hair and weight gain and all these actually beautiful things that happen as we age. So I think there are some different directions we could go in here, but certainly one that is going to almost sound too trite to be meaningful, but I swear it changes everything, is is changing our perspective toward aging, our perspective toward what the changes that are going on. Because it is so absolutely true that whatever we put our focus and attention on, whether negative or positive, is what's going to grow and expand in our life. So if we're looking in the mirror and we see those first few gray hairs and we're freaked out about it and oh, should I pluck them? Should I color my hair? Should I hope more don't come? We're just inviting more and more and more. It sounds magical, but it's just absolutely the truth about the way energy works, the way we're creating and manifesting our lives. So finding appreciation and joy in the parts about aging that really can be joyful. I remember when I was in my 20s and I worked at a publishing company in a kind of stressful job. I don't even know if the job itself was stressful or if I just put stress on myself as I was very likely to do at the time. But I remember being at lunch with my friends and saying, "I can't wait to be an old woman." And they thought I was nuts. So we're these like hot young things. The world is our oyster, right? And I was like, no, I swear I cannot even imagine what a paradise it would be to be able to eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want, wear whatever crazy comfortable clothes I feel like wearing, be as weird as I want, have time to just sit and read and be in nature without having to constantly be so worried that my employers are impressed with me and to already know who I was going to marry if I was going to get married and what my career was going to be and to not have all that hanging over my head. Like I actually had a vision of old age being like paradise and it kind of came true. Like I'll be 60 this year. I would not go back by 10 minutes to any prior place in my life because it just gets better and better and better when we're able to focus our attention on the positives of whatever's happening. And I know that sounds like really obvious trait advice, but I swear it makes us feel better and it keeps the things that we don't want happening from happening. Like I used the gray hair example. Like I've never colored my hair. I'm going to be 60. I've had grays pop up here and there and I make a point of like wisdom highlights, wisdom highlights. Like I don't do anything with them. And I swear all of my friends my age think it's crazy. Like they don't believe me, but I've never dyed my hair. I just like I think that the lack of fighting against them, the lack of resistance made them stop coming somehow. I don't know.
Yes, stop fighting it. You know that there's probably plenty out there, but there's not a lot you're going to be able to do about it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of your backstory. You knew early on that it seemed like you had a really positive attitude. And do you think that that's kind of what brought you to this place here and writing a book about joy and having a joy school?
I think that I'm going to do two steps. I think the positive attitude is something that I learned along the way for sure. I had a pretty dark childhood and early adulthood, but I learned the skills. I learned how to do it. And an example of that while we're talking about beauty and aging, the one thing on my face, I'm just going to share this because I feel like this was a magic trick that worked for me. The one thing I never minded like the wrinkles or anything, but I started getting jowly, like these just started like falling and I felt like from the side, you can still kind of see, but I started like I bought a nice night cream, and I started on purpose. Like when I would rub it in, I would be like, thank you for my firm, youthful jawline. Thank you. Because we always can have a comparison point, right? Even though to me it looked like, oh my gosh, my jaw is falling. I could think of lots of people I knew, that it was a more of an issue for. So I would just be so thankful, thankful, thankful for my firm jawline. So yeah, maybe it was the cream, but well, I don't even know what it is. But yeah, I feel like it like really made a difference. It fixed it. But okay, back to how I decided that I could have this weird circus people job of being a joy trainer was that in my early years, I was blessed to learn the things that I now teach. And none of the things that I teach are unique to me. I'm not like channeling entities with like special information. I teach a lot of the Buddhist foundational teachings, a lot of the contemporary spiritual teachers today, Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra and Joe Dispenza and Byron Katie. Like I really draw from teachers that have made a huge, huge difference in my life. So my joy school is all that, and my book is just drawn from my joy school. If I have a a superpower, a gift, it's that I'm able to assimilate these concepts that aren't always so accessible and put them into really applicable programs, really applicable, like here's how to do it. Here's how to do this magic thing and this magic thing. And because most of this is just really, really valuable ancient information that our culture just has not been trained to value or pay attention to or want to learn. So I'm really just sort of a curator of these things that for me were so absolutely valuable and life-changing. And once the veil has been pulled back like that, you just become passionate about wanting to pull the veil back for other people.
Do you feel that you're a constant learner? Are you always looking for new resources or new individuals who maybe have a different take on joy?
Yeah, absolutely. So much so. I just wrote an email tonight to my Joy Scholars because we're going to have a meeting tonight. I'm like, I can't wait to show y'all what I learned last week. And I was in a training for this new way to apply metaphor to speaking with our subconscious selves. So, yes, to me, this is a dream career for that very reason, that it legitimizes my my passion and obsession with going out and learning new things. And yeah, just being able to synthesize them, combine them with other modalities that we've been practicing, or things that we've been taking into our lives. That's what absolutely keeps me so passionate about this every day, is that I do keep learning new things.
I do have a copy of the book because and I've started putting marks in it already. I'm also a little bit of I can't I'm not a rule follower all the time. And I know that you mentioned that we should do this book. It's chapter by chapter. It's supposed to take, but I did skip around because sometimes I need to know more than I should. But I do have one question for you because there's there's a difference between being happy and being joyful. And can you tell me a little bit about that? Can you tell me the difference?
Yes, I will tell you the difference. And I will also say, I love that you're a rule breaker. And I can't tell you how many people have come back and said, you really wanted me to like wait before I go to the, like, nobody's doing it. It's fine. It's fine. The bottom line of like what you're supposed to master is following your intuition and knowing what's right for you. So however you choose to play with the book, you have my blessing. And very, very, very many readers have just read it straight through and then gone back and started applying because we want the overview, right? We're curious. And I consider it a compliment that people can't wait to get to the next chapter and they don't do that week of practice. I'm like, all right, that means I'm doing okay as a writer. So no worries there. So joy and happiness. Yes, in Joy School, we define joy as a freedom feeling. It's a freedom to embrace every human emotion that's natural to us. We came here. Our souls inhabit this human form in order to have an emotional experience here in this earth lifetime. We're supposed to have sadness. We're supposed to have anger. All these emotions that we've been taught are undesirable, or especially for women, maybe unattractive. It's unattractive to be angry, or, they're all so valuable. Our emotions are just messages for us. They're just showing us where we're a little bit out of balance with one thing or another. And they're always just holding up the mirror for what we've been creating in our lives. They're such valuable, beautiful messengers. And happiness is one of them. It's one of these emotions that we're here to experience, but it's not one that we should or would ever expect to be our 24/7 emotion, because we wouldn't even know when we were happy then, right? There'd be no baseline, no comparison. Our life would be so dull we wouldn't even recognize it as happy if we never had a challenge or a negative feeling. So joy is being able to be so comfortable in our skin and be so comfortable with everything happening inside us that we can find joy in our anger. Anger can be a beautiful opening to new boundaries and clarity, and helping to move justice forward in the world. And we can get so comfortable with our sadness when we recognize that for so many of us, sadness, it deepens us. It gives us a point of compassion for others. It allows us to meet people in a very raw, unfiltered place that is actually a very beautiful experience. So that's joy. Joy can be found in any of the perfectly beautiful natural human emotions that we're here to experience.
Do you think then that part of the problem is when we get stuck in that one particular emotion, if we get stuck in sadness and we're, setting up shop over there and not finding that spark or the positive side of the sad.
Yeah, and what usually is the cause of that is that we've been taught to resist sadness, that it's sort of like the gray hairs. It's like if we're sad, we can be, oh my gosh, I'm sad. I don't want to be sad today. What can I do to distract myself away from it? Or I shouldn't be sad. I'm not being grateful for all the things in my life that I should be grateful for. This is, this sadness is wrong. We try to deny our sadness and repress it, and that just keeps it so, so, so stuck. Our emotions are meant to flow through us. Just like if we're watching a beautiful sunset or listening to beautiful music, we feel the joy and the happiness rising up and moving through us. All our emotions are supposed to do that, but because we judge and repress certain ones, they get stuck and it's hard to break out of them. And if we could just sit with our sadness and love ourselves right there, that's a big, big, big part of the healing ingredient of Joy School. No matter what we're trying to heal or move or create, love is how we do it, right? So when we can just love ourselves so unconditionally, accepting every bit of that sadness, and we have a whole bunch of processes in the book called our feel to heal exercises, then the sadness has that opportunity to move, to flow through us and move. Most of our negative emotions are not really about the thing that's happening right now. They're usually something that's stored within us from a time in our childhood when life was a little too lifey for us to process. We just didn't have the emotional bandwidth, so our bodies took it on. Our energy system said, "Let me store this for you. Let me repress this for you, so you can go function in life." And all those stored energies, when something out there in our current situation matches the frequency of those, it stirs it up in us, and we get that disturbed energy. We get that emotional crunch. Right? It always feels like a contraction when we feel those old things being woken up. We want to squeeze them down, and actually that keeps them in place and even adds to the energy of them when we can learn to open to them, open to our sadness, open to our grief, open to our anger, whatever's buried in there, and have healthy, loving release of them. That's when all those things out here stop triggering us into the re-experiencing.
When you describe it that way, it sounds so much better than I think how a lot of women feel. You get to this certain point in your life, and a lot of the women in the community have talked about it, where you sort of feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, whether it's just about how you're feeling physically, physical symptoms, but there's also the emotional side of it, and you're dealing with a lot of different things. And it could be caring for a parent or a change in your relationship or a job. And I don't think we always want to sit there with our sadness.
Yeah. And it can be hard to do alone. That's why community is so important. What you're doing with your community is so important. Joy School provides that community support. Women in particular have often been trained up to be caregivers, caretakers, and we are affected by the collective. There's a lot out there in the collective of humanity right now that triggers our maternal instincts, whether we're mothers or not, that we want to take care of. So it really is a practice to direct that care and love and attention inward toward yourself, knowing that it's only from a full cup that you're able to give or provide anything out there. And I know what you're saying also about, we don't want to encourage women to get stuck in their sadness, to wallow in their sadness. And I get that. There's actually like a discernment that starts to come into play where we notice, okay, something out there or one of my thoughts or memories has created this whoosh of disturbance inside me. I feel the body chemicals, I feel the churning, I feel this disturbed energy. We can actually become skillful at detecting, is this something that's raw and real and I need to go do my feel to heal practices to feel it through so I can emotionally release it? Or is this one of my well-worn grooves of just a repetitive thought pattern that isn't serving me? Because we have both. We've got some real energies that need to be carefully examined and allowed to blossom in their fullness so that they can move through us. But we also have these conditioned thought patterns that it's really just a habit, right? Habits aren't easy to break, but we all know they can be broken. So when we notice that that's what's going on, that's when we can turn to a different kind of exercise where it really is about the reframe and shifting the perception on it so that we can break out of those habits and create new ones.
I'm really curious about the school, and I'm also curious as to the age groups that you encounter.
It's funny. Joy School pretty much has aged along with me. I right now we have more, I would say, older category of people than we have young people. We have had some young people in the past, and it's I feel like it's the older people, and by older, 50s, 60s, we've got some 70s, some 80s, um, who tend to stick around, right? So we have young people that we absolutely love and adore that drop in for a couple of months and pick up some tools, and we send them on their way, and they know they can always pop in and let us know how they're doing. But young people are busy, right? So I think it's once we get that extra time on our hands and we really start to notice the benefit and we realize it's a spiral, right? We never stop growing and evolving. So there's always like a next level of peace and contentment and joy to reach. So a lot of the members who have been in for 5 years, just up leveling and up leveling and up leveling with me are the ones who are, a little bit older, for sure. And I do think we get wiser, whether we're actively participating in our evolution or not. Life is going to give us a workout, right? And the more you have time to sort of mindfully apply what we're talking about into your life, the more you're available to see the magic. You're not going to see it on your way to your busy job and then on your way to meet your friends for drinks. You have to really have a little bit of a slower pace to see what's unfolding and then to take note of it and celebrate it. And the more we celebrate the small things that start shifting, the more momentum those things get and the bigger the shifts become.
In the work that you do, is there one thing that if someone came to you and said, I've lost my sparkle, is there one thing that you would suggest to them they should start to regain that sparkle?
Yeah. First, I would say, yay, that's fabulous. Look, you just practiced and demonstrated the ability to be the observer. Okay, so witness consciousness, witness perspective, the observer. This is like a ancient principle that is the beginning of the spiritual path for every spiritual seeker. Like this is across religions or across the world, across cultures. Being the observer, being the witness to your emotional state, to your life, is an incredibly powerful first step. So you noticed that your sparkle's gone. You noticed that there's something that you'd like to shift. And the fact that you're actually addressing it puts you above a huge percentage of people in the world because it means that you recognize that there's something you can do about it. You recognize that change is possible. If you ask any person on the street, would you like a more joyful life, no matter how they would consider themselves on the scale of joy, everyone's going to say, yeah, I want more joy. Heck yeah. The reason that that doesn't mean that everybody out there is flocking to Joy School is most people do not understand that it's something within their control. Most people completely feel that their happiness is at the hands of the people out there, the conditions out there, the circumstances out there, their bank account. They think that their happiness is completely external to them. If you've noticed, I have lost my spark. I would like it back. I would like to do something to get it back. You're head and shoulders above a million people who think that life sucks and you just do the best you can out there and then you die, and they don't have the ability to see beyond that framework, right? So knowing that you've lost your spark and you want some joy positions you beautifully to learn a few tools, have the commitment to break some habits because that's really the only hard part. The only hard thing about any of it is we're creatures of habit. And for lots of us, our habits that rob us of our joy are really firmly ingrained. So we want to be open to seeing that. We want to have the sort of vulnerability to really look at our lives and our repeated activities, our repeated creation cycles, right? Because we're all creating our life every step of the way. And when we can get that objectivity and we practice that witness perspective, it gets really easy to see where we need to shift up some of the things that we've been bringing to the table. And yeah, so some of my joy schoolers early on would set their watches to go off at various intervals during the day to just look in and say, "What am I feeling?" And I always encourage terms of endearment. So you might want to make a practice of saying, "Darling, what are you feeling?" Because we all talk to ourselves with a voice in our head, and most of us have not such a friendly voice, or we're trained to have not such a friendly voice in our heads. So we want to shift the tone of the voice, right? Darling, what are you feeling? Darling, what do you need? And I like to add on, what would you love? And the more we can, with self compassion, with real, genuine bringing love for ourselves to the table, ask those questions, that's what invites our subconscious to show us what it is that we need, what it is that we're striving toward. What we love is something that, a lot of us don't even entertain the idea that I could have what I'd really love, but getting clear on what I really love for my life to look like is what opens the pathways and the opportunities for making it that. Right. So it begins that simply. That's like one of the very first steps in the book. Is one of the first Joy School activities is just really, really get good at being the observer of what's going on inside you and bringing love and compassion to that.
I think we're always looking outside, or at least I am. I'm looking outside of me for happiness and positivity, and I'm looking for someone to tell me, "Hey Holly, you're going to feel better. You're doing a good job." But yeah, I don't think we always take the time to look in.
Right. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with wanting community to say it too and help you and support you. That's, we're tribal creatures by nature of our humanity. Some of us are blessed with that community within our families of origin. Some of us have to have created families, whether that's through groups like your group and my group, or whether you just are able to find a friend circle. There's nothing wrong with expecting that from those around you as well.
Do you think that the world has changed, especially the last few years and coming out of the pandemic? I just get the sense that this time has really caused a lot of disconnection. And if they weren't happy before, or if they weren't joyful before, like they've gotten further and further away from that. Have you found that in the joy school?
Yeah. So the little bit of the shiny spiritual lens on that is what I feel happened was that a lot that was already there has come up to the surface. And nothing can heal and change until it's brought to the light. So, yeah, I do feel like there's a definite ickiness that was not there prior in the collective and for a lot of us in our personal space. But all it was the stuff that needed to come up and out to be healed, right? Because it's the dark night of the soul for a individual human is often followed by a huge up level in their evolving and their level of enlightenment and their level of joy. And I think it's the same for the collective, that we had to kind of come to a dark night of the soul for enough people to want something different, to want a different world, a different culture, a different society. All the structures are crumbling, and they probably needed to for a long time, but we were just all so complacent about it. It's almost like we have to get to that level of discomfort collectively before enough people go care enough to change it, to create a different flavor of society.
Do you have a suggestion? Because I think sometimes you need a way of protecting those soft spots of you, because the world is challenging for sure. And I think, especially when you are a little bit older and things aren't as easy as they once were.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully spoken to. So recognizing it again is hugely valuable. Recognize, ooh, I have these tender spots, these owie spots. And in Joy School, we do a lot with what we call our bucket beliefs, which is, I spoke about it a little bit earlier, that framework that we are taught about how life is going to be here. We come in these beautiful, perfect, pristine beings of love and light and joy. This is what our soul essence is. It comes into this earth form, and we start asking, how is it here? What are the rules? What are the definitions? And from our family of origin and from our earliest understandings, we create this framework of beliefs that we're going to go through the world. And there are 400 billion bits of information available to us in any given second. That's Joe Dispenza. I use this metaphor a lot. And which ones are going to land into our brain and create our reality are completely dependent upon that early framework that we formed. And for most people on the planet today, we're still more primarily driven by fear than by love, which means that we inherited ideas about scarcity and competition and lack. And none of that is in agreement with what our soul knows about this beautiful existence here. So the more we become aware of it, and the more we become aware that every one of us has this framework that's not really who they are, it's not inherent to their soul being, it's just some programs that they picked up along the way, it becomes easier to not make the world so black and white, not make enemies of people who are behaving in a way that we feel they should know better than to behave. They're just the victims of their own programming, their own early whatever got put into their filter of beliefs, right? And the more we can feel into that, the again, this is going to sound kind of trite, but I'm a spiritual girl. The more we start to recognize the oneness, and the more we can fall into the oneness, the more we can understand the perfection. That yes, it looks like horrible things are happening right and left. None of this should be happening. This is terrible. It's really not true. Everything that's happening should be happening. We chose to come into this grand experiment at this particular juncture in time where people still kill one another. People still are absolutely horrible to one another because that's where humanity is in its evolution. So those of us who are able to look at that and know that this is not where humanity is going, this is not what should be happening, we are so blessed that we either had the conditioning early on to be able to see that or have had opportunities along our evolving to learn how to see it that way. We're blessed to have that perspective, and it's upon us to be the example to help move humanity in a more positive direction. And that means not casting blame, not buying into black and white thinking and half of the people here are my enemy and the other half are my friends. It really is about like building the capacity to hold it all, to hold everything that's going on and just know I'm here to bring the light wherever I can, whether that's holding the door for the guy behind me at the grocery store or smiling at people when I'm out. I'm here to bring the light. I'm here to move humanity in the direction that I'm blessed enough to be able to see we need to go in. And it's focusing on the solution. Because the more we focus on what we don't like and we don't want to see, the more we're giving that power and energy and strength. So it's just almost refusing to see it that way, seeing the perfection in it so we can focus on our own little corner of how we can bring light and move things forward.
Can you think of three things that we've discussed that you would like a woman in menopause specifically that she can use as tools, from our conversation here today?
Sure. So I don't think I've used this word because, again, I'm going to call it trite, but I hope that underlying most of what we've been discussing is this idea about self-compassion and self-love. I feel like women in general, most of us, we're not trained up with the proper amount of understanding how to love ourselves, how to really put ourselves first sometimes and value ourselves, the wholeness of us, the not just the pretty parts or the parts that society said are what our value comes from, but just to really value our entire wholeness, the quirkiest quirks about us. That piece alone, the more you can listen to the voice in your head, hear when it's reinforcing a different message than that, and shift into a commitment to honoring yourself, that's going to shift everything better than anything else that we can do. And it's a piece that, you know, Self-love isn't buying the shoes or taking the bubble bath. It's taking control of the voice in our heads and how we look at ourselves and view ourselves. And for women in menopause, it just becomes more exacerbated, right? Because then we're not demonstrating those things the little girls were taught are where their value is going to come from, right? We've started to shift and change into other things. But I don't know. I feel like with a little practice, with a little, focusing where you do your reading or get your social media, we can like I love the word crone. I'm so excited that I can finally sort of embrace like I'm a crone. It's like it's this wise and magical being that I didn't get to be when I was younger. And some people our age like hate that word. Not even our age, my age. You're younger than I am, but I don't know if you know Ariel Ford. She's a friend of mine. She writes a lot of books about soulmate love, and she's a teacher out there. And I told her, like, aren't you excited we're going to be like crones now? And she's like, oh no, I hate that word. Don't say that. I say queenager. She likes queenager is her word for it. But, there are so many like yummy benefits that we can just start to lean into the older we get. I feel that it's like, yeah, society is not going to expect the same things from me at this age that I felt all that pressure around. And I wish that young people would not feel the pressure too, of course. I'm just from my own experience, it was a lot more pressure younger. So the self-love bit, yeah. All right. So does
Yeah.
does that count as one? Should I come up with two more?
No, no, self love and to lean in to that
Lean
experience,
in. Yeah.
lean into aging. It's okay. So there's two.
Okay. All right. What else should we do? What else did we talk about? Did anything make an impression on you, Holly, that you want to remind me about?
I do have one thing because I think we sometimes feel selfish taking that time for ourselves. And that's the feedback I've gotten that, oh, I don't really have time to, take care of myself or to do those things for me. We're just talking about little things that you could do to make yourself feel better.
Right. And I wish that everybody listening to us just had that much already inkling toward their self-love, that would be enough for them to want to do it. But a lot of us need extra incentive, and it is absolute gospel that the more we take care of our own happiness, the more everyone around us benefits, right? How many of us are looking to our partners or spouses or kids or friends to make us happy and, cheer me up? I'm in a bad mood. That puts a tremendous burden on everybody around you. Be the one who's so full from the inside that everybody wants to be around you because you just radiate this positivity and this light. I mean, if you need a reason to do it, that's not just about yourself, like everybody around you will benefit. You'll be modeling such great skills for your kids or any young people in your sphere of influence. You'll be helping your friends just by being you. Partners love it when their partner's happy
Yeah,
and they take the pressure off of them to make them happy.
that's the way I feel from just spending this time with you here this today. You have so much positive energy. I'm going to be a better person going into my day. I could tell you that much. I think those listening or watching today are going to want to know a little bit more about you and where they could connect with you.
Thank you, Holly. Yes, everything I do is at my website, which is my name, Lisa McCourt, MCCOURT.com. And yeah, I have my ongoing Joy School membership. There's the book Free Your Joy. I have a podcast, and I do have an upcoming online retreat. I usually do my retreats in person, but there was demand for an online retreat, so it's super affordable. I'll give your group even an extra discount if you want to message me at lisamccourt.com and say you heard about it through Holly. I'll take off another big chunk. I forget what it is. I think it's 250, but 175 with the early bird discount. I'll make it $100 for the Holly group because it's just going to be so much fun to have an online event, and we're going to really dive deep and do the kinds of inner work that requires a little extra space and time.
Thank you so much. I hope that there are some people that take you up on that. It's a very kind thing for you to do for us today. And I just really want to say I am so grateful for this conversation.
It's my favorite conversation to have, and I loved having it with you because I feel your heart and I feel your dedication to your community and your people, and you're making a beautiful imprint on the planet by shining your light that way. Thanks, Holly. Pleasure spending this time with you.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Real Insights. If you want to learn more about navigating menopause with confidence and clarity from other women just like you, be sure to check out my book, Empart: Real Stories, Real Wisdom, Real Menopause. And join the Empart community to be part of our conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode.